Hi, this is Ken Kirzinger, aka Jason from Freddy Vs Jason, and you're listening to the Don't Go Out There horror movie podcast.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. I just want to thank all our fans and listeners. We really appreciate all the support. And tonight, this is Nico. I'm really excited about the guest we have on tonight. We couldn't be happier to be joined today by someone who, with over 30 years of experience and 100-plus movie credits to his name, is known for roles in Watchmen, The Incredible Hulk, Walking Tall, Joyride 3, and many, many others. But probably best known for my personal favorite portrayal of the one and only Jason Voorhees in the 2003 blockbuster Freddy Vs. Jason. Mr. Ken Kirzinger. Ken, thank you so much for joining us. It's truly an honor.
Hey,
How are you doing?
Really good, really good. It's great to be here.
Hey, before we jump into the question, I got one quick question, Ken. I know you live in Canada. Do you do any fishing?
You know what? I go on one fishing trip every year with my my brother and my cousins, and so we go for salmon and halibut.
Okay, yeah, I'm a big bass fisherman. I know y'all got smallmouth bass up there,
Yep.
Walleye, big muskie, big pike. I had to ask that because I'm the fisherman of the group.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's fishing's really big here, and most of the walleye and that kind of fish are further back east and a little further north, I think. But yeah, there's good fishing here.
Oh yeah, had to get that out of there.
Absolutely, man. Ken, this is Mike. How you doing, man?
Good.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what got you into acting and most notably stunt work, being a stuntman?
You know, I found this to be really common amongst stunt people, and I'm sure it's the same amongst actors, but something happened during our childhood that kind of turned us on to the whole thing. For myself, I read an article about Hal Needham, very famous stuntman, when I was like 12 years old, and it just sort of stuck with me as something, a career that I'd want to look into, and I have several friends who all have similar stories. You know, they happened on a film set once when they saw a company shooting and said that that's what they wanted to do. And so it was just something that stuck with me since I was a kid. And then when I was in college, I was playing football. I blew my knee out and I was kind of depressed about that. But I thought, oh, now's a good time to look into, stunt work. So I had a sister living in Los Angeles who still lives there, and went down and looked into it and came back. And it wasn't long after that I started working on my first movie.
Awesome, man.
So, Ken, this is Dustin. With over 30 years of stunt work, what would you consider to be the sketchiest stunt you've done, and what was the worst injury you sustained doing these stunt work over the years?
Well, I often get asked, like, what's the most dangerous stunt you did? And the most dangerous stunt any stuntman can do is the one that goes wrong, because we're not supposed to get hurt. That's the whole plan going into it, is that you're not going to get hurt. For me, I remember I was doing a chase scene once in an open Jeep with a roll bar that wasn't quite higher than my head, and we were shooting on the side of a mountain, and I had to bump this limousine that was chasing the hero in a big semi, and the guy was supposed to slide off the side of the mountain, but his e-brake didn't work, and he turned into me, and the Jeep flipped, and I flipped upside down and went off. Came back onto its wheels, went off the side of the mountain backwards, and luckily it was kind of knocked me silly at that point. And then, but it had enough power in the Jeep that it sort of idled itself back up onto the road. Thank God I didn't keep going all the way down the mountain. But I thought to myself, because all I was wearing was a lap belt, and I was doubling an actor who was 7'2", and I thought to myself, what if this Jeep flips? And ahead of time, I just thought to myself, I got to throw my arms up over my head. That's the only thing I can do to save myself. And I hit so hard up when I ended up upside down. I hit so hard and I remembered to throw my arms up over my head. It bent the driver's seat back. Wow. And the wig that I was wearing was half torn off. The watch I was wearing, the watch face was torn off from the pavement, and so just thinking ahead of what I could possibly do to save myself, probably saved my life, because my head would have been a melon on that road. So that was the closest I ever came to getting killed on a film set.
Goodness.
I fractured my elbow. That's not so bad. I mean, stunts, people are used to, broken bones and sprains and stuff like that. That's pretty much par for the course, because the injury rate is 100%.
Right.
If you do it long enough, you're going to get it. It's like playing pro football or any other professional sport. You're going to get injured if you do it long enough.
Right.
And then, I think the worst injury I had was I was doing a movie called Hideaway, doubling Jeff Goldblum, and there's a fight scene where they're in this piece of art the guy has built, giant head, all out of steel, and they fall out of it. And I had to fall like 4 feet on my back onto concrete. And the trick of that is you got to get your heels down first to sort of break the fall a bit. And I didn't get my heels down. I landed flat on my back, and I fractured 3 vertebrae in my back, and so that was probably the worst injury I've had.
Goodness.
But there's been a lot. I'd have to start at my toes and work my way up.
Well, Ken, this is Brian. Nice to meet you finally. So your most famous role, obviously, is Jason Voorhees, but you also played 2 other iconic roles, Pa in Wrong Turn 2, and, of course, Rusty Nail in Joyride 3. Can you just tell us a little bit about those 2 roles and experiences on set?
Sure. Actually, so I actually worked on Joyride 2 as well. I was the stunt double for the guy who played Rusty Nail.
Nice.
Mark Gibbon was the guy's name, and he's actually a friend of mine, and we knew each other before I think he even got into acting, but he had been cast as Rusty Nail, and I ended up doubling him in number 2, and then number 3 came along, and I guess when I was working on number 2, they found out that I had played Jason in Freddy Vs. Jason, and they sort of said, maybe we should use Ken in the next one. So I ended up with the job on number 3, and number 3, they all sort of changed. The first one was sort of a psychological thriller. The second one was a bit more, slasher, and the third one, which is full-on slasher movie. And but it was a lot of fun for me to do, to get to play the character and say some lines and play with it. I was really hoping we'd get to do another one. That didn't happen, but because there were some other things I wanted to do with the character. But that was a lot of fun to do. Really good experience. And then Wrong Turn 2. I gotta keep this straight.
There's like 9 of those, man. So
yeah, I know. So Wrong Turn 2, I played Pa, and the director, and I'm blanking on his name right now, but he's a big horror fan. He worked for Fangoria, and he asked for me to play Pa. They were shooting here in Vancouver, and that was another fun one to do, except that one had tons of prosthetic. I was sitting in the chair for like 3 hours, and I've done it for other movies and stuff too. It's never a lot of fun to sit in the makeup chair for 3 hours while they, glue all the makeup to you and stuff like that. But I remember the last week of filming, I had this prosthetic ear, and at the end of the day, I would always rip it off and give it to the director so he could make a necklace.
Nice.
Hey, Ken, you were a brutal son of a gun in Joyride 3 too, by the way. You kind of killed them pretty brutally.
Well, that's it. They went total slasher.
Oh yeah, they told me.
On that end, and you had to give kudos to our director for coming up, because he was the writer as well, for coming up with such ingenious ways of using a truck to kill people. I thought particularly the snow chain kill was pretty good, and then the radiator fan kill was particularly good, I thought, and there were some good ones in that.
Yeah, it was brutal.
No doubt.
Lots of blood.
So let's get into Freddy vs. Jason a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure,
we reviewed this movie recently, actually last night, full disclosure, as we record this. Many people don't know that you worked on Friday Part 8 with Kane Hodder, including applying for the role of stunt coordinator position in Freddy vs. Jason. Can you talk a little bit about how all of that came to pass, how you got involved in the Friday franchise, and how everything came to be?
Yeah, sure. So the production manager on number 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, was Randy Shoveldave, and Randy and I had worked together before, I believe, and so I remember talking to him about the show, and I didn't really realize how big the franchise was and stuff, and anyway, so they asked me to be the stunt coordinator, and there was a moment there where they thought I might be the actually play Jason in that one. But then they called me back and said, no, we just need you for the stunt coordinating job. And so I did that. And then years later, of course, Freddy vs. Jason came to Vancouver, and I was interviewing for the stunt coordinating job. And I remember the producer, when I spoke to him, said, we've been looking for somebody your stature, your size. And, you've had past experience with the franchise. Would you audition for it? And I said, sure, of course. And actually, the first question out of my mouth was, what about Kane Hodder? And they said, because I was actually looking forward to working with Kane again. We'd had a good experience on number 8. And so anyway, he said, well, they want to go a different direction. They want somebody bigger. So the audition was, they read the opening scene of the girl swimming in the lake, and they had me standing there with a really cheap Jason mask on, and did a close-up of my eyes and read the opening scene and had me react with my eyes, and then they had me walk around the room, and then that was it. They showed it to Ronnie Yu, and I went and met with Ronnie Yu, and after a short chat, I got the job.
Well, awesome. So, in Freddy vs. Jason, Jason's coming off 4 films where the character was portrayed a certain way by Kane Hodder, to be emotionless and fearless, and now stepping in where Ronnie Yu wanted to introduce some vulnerability to the character. Can you talk a little bit about your mindset and maybe what went into your performance, even the difference in the movement of the character?
Yeah. So initially, Ronnie Yu and I talked about the movement because I'd asked him, I go, do you want me to mimic anything anybody else has done and stuff? And he said no. He had a specific idea in mind that Jason would move very slowly, and then when he did something like chop the guy in half in the hallway, it would make it more startling, and it would accentuate it more. And he, and we both agreed too that Jason was a supernatural character. He didn't, we never see him, running in Freddy vs. Jason to catch somebody. It harkens back to the earlier ones where you never see him run, but he always catches up. He's always around the corner, no matter how far they run, kind of thing. And we both like that about Jason, that he was supernatural. And so the movements, it's funny, being a stuntman, you're always watching the actor you're doubling, and you watch how he moves and stuff, and you try and mimic that. So for this, though, I had to come up with my own things. And I borrowed one movement I remember distinctively. There's a scene where Freddie brings him into his dream world and the water comes down. Right. And, Jason takes a certain stance. And I used that stance I stole from a Star Trek, an episode of the old Star Trek series. There was a character called Rock. And Rock was a robot, but he had human emotions, and there's a certain stance he took, and so I borrowed a little bit from that. But the body language, was really all I had to work with. So, if Jason's angry, his weight is forward and he's ready to come at you. When Freddie starts getting into his head and he starts becoming afraid of the water, his stance goes back, and you can speak a lot with your body. I think somebody said like 90% of our communication is body language. So even though all you ever see of me is one eye, because the other eye was fake in the mask, you communicate a lot through Jason's body movement.
Absolutely. So I got to ask also, of the 20 plus kills that you had in the film, do you have one that stands out? One that when you look back, you're like, I'm proud of that. That was good work. What's your favorite kill?
I can't take credit for them, but because other people have to think this stuff up and build what's needed and all that kind of thing. But I think in particular the one I liked the best was the folding the kid up in the bed after, because everybody expects Jason to stab him,
Right.
and and we did a good job of that. Lots of blood on the machete and stuff like that. But nobody was expecting the bed to get folded in half, and I just thought that was brilliant. And and when I speak to people, oftentimes that's their favorite kill of the movie as well.
Absolutely, right here. No doubt.
Oh yeah, if you didn't pick that one, I was gonna tell you to pick again because that wasn't the right answer.
So Ken, we had Robert on the show as well, but we didn't get a chance to ask him about the final battle in particular. So 17 years later, what are your thoughts on that bloody, amazing gore fest of a battle with not just Freddy Krueger, but Robert Englund's Freddy Krueger?
Yeah, you know what? They did it right. They really did it right. You can see, they had so many versions of the script before the one they used for the movie actually got made, and you can tell they put a lot of thought into that final battle. And because everybody's asking, well, how is Freddy going to stand a chance against Jason? He's so much bigger, and of course they made my Jason even bigger.
Right.
But Ronnie Yu has a martial arts background. He knows that the winner of the fight is always the bigger guy. If Freddie is quicker, has more style, more finesse, and is smarter about what he does, he stands a chance against the bigger guy. So they set the fight up really well, I thought. And there's Jason had already taken a good beating in Freddie's dream world, and now it's his revenge in the real world. And they did it right, and it's exactly what the fans wanted to see. The big battle at the end. And it goes on, and they incorporated the other actors into it as well, and just great imagination. And Robert was so great to work with. We had a stunt double for him, but he's so game to do so much. And right. When we were in the burning building, it really got hot in there. Like the hair on people's wigs were melting because it was so hot in there. He's wearing that prosthetic makeup, which like can melt to your skin. And so he was really great to work with. And I just felt like we played off each other really well. And I can't say enough about Robert. I always call him this generation's, Vincent Price. And it's just such a treat to have worked with him and gotten to know him. And, the first thing he said to me in the makeup trailer was, we'll be seeing each other for the rest of our lives now. And inventions,
Right.
So, and we do, we see each other every year. We get to catch up, and I love his wife, Nancy, and they're just great people. And it was such a better experience for having him there. So really a treat.
Don't be modest, because I've heard Robert say about you on how impressed he was, how you were able to withstand some of that fire and actually your stuff catching on fire. So I think that he has a very high opinion of you as well.
Yeah, it was there were some interesting moments. I did catch on fire once accidentally, and I heard Ronnie he say to somebody, "I'm so glad I hired a stuntman." to do this.
Right.
There's a scene, I'll just tell you, there's a scene where I grab the police officer and stuff his head into an electrical panel, and all the sparks go off, and I was wearing the burlap jacket, which wasn't fire treated. And so it's like wearing kindling, and the sparks got on me, and the jacket lit up, and I looked down, I could see the flames coming up my chest. And, and I just turned to one of the special effects guys. I looked at him, I go, "A little help?" Everybody was standing there. Some people didn't know I wasn't supposed to catch fire. So, that was one of the moments.
The last thing about Robert is, Wes Craven's New Nightmare was my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street film, and we've discussed that a little bit. You mentioned you were fond of it as well.
Well, you know what? I was so excited to hear that they've sort of settled the rights for it now, and there's some talk on the internet about doing another one.
Oh, yes.
And I just want to pump Robert for the job, because I think they'd be crazy. They could hire the best actor in the world, but it's not Robert.
Right.
And Robert is that character. He's played him all. He's played him in all the movies except the one, and kudos to the actor who did, but the fans have just they love Robert, and Robert is that character, and I'm really excited. I'd be really excited for Robert if he got to put the makeup on again and got to do it. We've always said, when Robert and I talk, they left so much money on the table by not doing another Freddy versus Jason.
Oh, that's another.
Yes. Because we'd been asked right away when the movie came out and was a hit and had done so well, number one in the box office for 2 weekends in a row, which is, rare for a horror movie. And they came to us right away and said, hey, we want to get the band together. We want Ronnie, you and Robert. And they were talking about doing Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, which, I think would have been huge.
Oh.
But then it just sort of faded away, because of the rights issues. And of course the comic books came out. But anyway, if they can get Robert to do another at Elm Street, and and somebody had mentioned about bringing another. Robert and I have talked about this too, where if we did another Freddy versus Jason movie, it'd be cool to do a Freddy versus Jason versus like a fan or a character who is a fan of Freddy and Jason, and bring them into it and pay an homage to the fans. Because there are people out there that know every single little detail,
Absolutely,
about both characters and stuff, and we thought, we need to do something where they bring in new information about the characters, and you bring in a fan who gets to mingle with Freddy and Jason somehow, and so we'll see what they do. But anyway, I'd be very excited if Robert got to put the makeup on and the claw again. That'd be awesome.
No doubt, and I know that he's very hesitant to he's mentioned many times that he's very hesitant to do the makeup because the process is so extensive, and I know that I'm sure that drains you guys so much to have to do that kind of stuff. But we've talked about that on the show so many times. There's so many, especially nowadays, other methods that they could use to have him look like Freddy Krueger and not have to have him sit in the chair for 5 hours, every single day, I think. And hopefully they can get him back because he's the only Freddy Krueger in I know, all of our eyes anyway.
Yeah, I mentioned that I had emailed Nancy, Robert's wife, and I said, yeah, they don't have to put him in the makeup anymore. You
Right.
See what they're doing out there, and Robert doesn't even have to lose weight.
No, I know.
To get into his fighting weight. He just brings the personality and the voice, and that's all you need.
Absolutely. Brian mentioned the makeup, and I wanted to ask a quick question. Everybody asks Robert how long he sits in the makeup chair. Every interview he's ever done.
Yeah.
How long was your makeup for Jason?
My makeup for Jason was easy. I was in and out in like 20 minutes.
Oh, nice.
Because the headpiece is all one piece, like a diver's balaclava. They darken around the one eye, and where you can see through the holes in the mask. They put some makeup on where there were holes in the gloves, and boom, I was done. There was only one day I had to wear full prosthetics for the shot in the back of the van where Kelly Rowland lifts the mask up. You see, Jason's face. And the funny story behind that is, so I had some teeth knocked out, and I have a permanent bridge in my front of my mouth here, and they didn't put Vaseline on my teeth when they put the Jason teeth in, so it pulled the bridge out, and they panicking. They take me to a dentist right away. So the only day I had to wear full prosthetics, they take me to a dentist's office.
Oh, geez.
And I walk in there and I'm wearing a hoodie, and
Here we go.
There's one poor woman, middle-aged lady sitting there reading a newspaper, and I walk in, you can hear my voice, so she doesn't think anything's out of the normal or whatever. I sit across from her in the waiting room, and she lowers the paper to turn the page, and she's just does a double take and then lifts the newspaper up. And I go, it's all right, it's just makeup. And she said, oh my God, I thought they found you living in a sewer or something like that. So the poor woman. I was there at all full on, prosthetics.
I'm glad you told us that story because I was actually just about to ask you. I got it wrote down. Let me ask Ken about that quick dentist trip. I was like, because I read on IMDb or whatever about that, and it apparently scared everybody. I thought you were like an escaped psychopath or something whenever they saw you.
I had the whole wardrobe on and full prosthetics. We had finished all the prosthetics and everything, and so it's funny, just that one day.
All right, we're gonna ask you a fun question now, Ken. We started asking this question when we had Lisa Wilcox on. What's the weirdest thing that you've ever seen at a horror convention, or what's the oddest thing that somebody's asked you to do, or maybe something you had to sign or say? What's the weirdest thing to you that you saw at a convention?
Okay, so I was in Sweden, and it was right after the movie came out, and we were in Malmö, Sweden, and I've got, for some reason, I've got Lord of the Rings guys all around me, all the hobbits from Lord of the Rings, and this really attractive girl comes up, and she goes, in her Swedish accent, which I won't attempt, but she goes, "You're going to give me an autograph for free, for nothing," and I said, "Why is that?" And she says this really loud so everybody can hear me. She goes, "Because you're going to sign my ass." and so she sees do her pants and bend over, stick her ass out. And
wow.
Stop. Guys are all looking at me, and I'm looking at them, and I go, "You win."
Man,
Can't fight that logic. Yeah,
oh, it's funny you say that because all the women we've had on here, their weirdest experience is always somebody grabbing a boob or something. And
grabbing their boob.
Oh right. God. And so finally we get one and she's shoving her ass in your face.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing, Mike. It's complete opposite for Ken.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. Ken, we really appreciate you coming on the show. And like I told you before we started this, I just wanted to tell you the same thing I got to tell Robert Englund. Me and my mom were both big she was a big Nightmare franchise fan. I was a big Jason fan. I got to tell CJ Graham himself this. Jason Lives, the movie he was in, was the very, very first horror movie I ever saw as a little kid. I was maybe 6 years old. And the first horror movie I ever saw in the theaters was Freddy vs. Jason. I saw it with my mom, my little brother, and my classmate. And like I told these guys last night, I remember being, I love the Jason character. I would go to Walmart with my mom and look in the magazines, and I remember the first time I ever seen like a preview of the kill you did with the glow stick guy. And I saw that, and then I remember it was a great kill. I remember being in the theater, and when you killed Trey and you folded him up in the bed. I just want to thank you for being Jason, for doing a great portrayal. And it's something that me and my mom hold together, as a memory together. So it's really a great honor to get to tell Robert Englund and Ken Kirzinger, the two stars of this movie, this slasher movie that I truly love, and two of my favorite horror villains of all time. Because, there's a lot of great horror out there, the deep stuff like Paranormals, The Conjurings, stuff like that. But all four of us, our logo is Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, and Jason Voorhees, where we love slashers. And it's really a great honor from all of us to have guys like you and guys like Robert Englund on our show and to give us your time, honestly. It's a great honor. And I truly love Freddy vs. Jason. I love the movie. I love the fight. And I really appreciate you coming on our show, Ken.
Well,
Thank you, Ken.
It's my pleasure. I know Robert would say the same thing, that it's our honor that we got to portray those characters and that we have, people like you who after all these years, are still, into it and you keep Jason and Freddie alive. So we appreciate you guys very, very much.
See, the thing is, man, Mike, he actually wrote an article for our website on our blog. He asked, is the slasher genre, is it dead? And it's not dead, but it kind of is, because you just can't really create these great characters like they did in the 80s, like right. You and Robert. Halloween is trying, but,
Well, Halloween did well, the last one, right? So,
right.
Oh, yeah.
There's still room for these movies. And I think, the key to it is, giving the fans more information. You can't get by on just great kills and stuff like that. You got to tease them with a little bit more information. And but I think there's plenty of room for the right slasher movies. And certainly these ones are so well anchored in people's past. And I always think that people sort of bond with the first movies they saw, the first movies that had a real impact on them. You mentioned you saw Freddy vs. Jason when you were quite young, so it stuck with you, and people have grown up with it, and it's generational. It's generational.
Absolutely. Can I ask you one more quick thing before we get out of here, Ken? Las Vegas weigh-in.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah. Please.
Ken, can you imagine this is 2002, 2003 when we're hyping this movie?
Yeah.
Imagine it's 2018, 19, 20. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have all these social medias to absolutely just pump this machine. Can you just talk to us about in 2003 this Vegas weigh-in?
That's why we need a sequel. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just what a brilliant idea. What a great marketing idea. It was, so much fun to do. And really the first time I had been exposed to fans, because the auditorium was full of people. And you eat that up. It energizes you. And Robert gets to do all the talking and stuff like that. But, we got to play with each other on stage, and it just turned out to be such a brilliant promotional idea. And they did it upright. They spent a lot of money. New Line spent a lot of money to promote that, and it's people still talk about it. Mention it to me all the time. So it was a great way to introduce the two characters together for the first time.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. It's just so cool to see two of your favorite icons. I've always said this is kind of like the Conor McGregor versus the Floyd Mayweather. It's the matchups you want to see. It's Batman and Superman, but for us slasher junkies like us, man, it was just it was some really good stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw online that they were actually crediting Freddy versus Jason for the pair up of Superman, versus Batman.
I have read that. You're absolutely right. Yep.
And Alien versus Predator. You can throw that in there too.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So who knows? Let's all keep our fingers crossed that they decide to do another one, and that they make it as creative as they did with Freddy vs. Jason.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I think I speak on behalf of all of us. We really appreciate your time, Ken. This was a great honor to have you on. You've been one of the nicest people we've ever talked to, honestly.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you coming on the show. Not that anybody else is bad, but you're really nice. You're a really nice guy, and we really appreciate you giving us your time, man.
Well, my pleasure, guys. You guys, good luck with the show. You're starting out on fire, and stay well.
And just want to remind everybody to don't go out there.